I want to welcome everybody to our Grub Club webinar on Ivanti Enterprise Service Management. Today we have Brian Hoskins that will be presenting to us. So without any further ado, I guess we'll go ahead and just pass that over.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Brian Hoskins. We're going to be going through quite a bit today. To kind of talk about service and asset management, a little bit on the asset, but mostly focused on service management. And at the end of this, we're going to talk a lot about how we can go through and mature our service management offering from where we are to whatever our next step is, and how we can make that transition a little bit better. One of the unique things about the Ivanti service management solution is everyone knows about Gartner's Magic Quadrant. And as you kind of go through and see the different quadrant areas, leader versus challenger, right, and all of the different components that are there, Ivanti is in the leader space in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. But more important than that is that in the critical capabilities, Gartner actually goes through and ranks those from a low maturity, to a medium maturity, to a high maturity. And Ivanti is the only platform in all three levels. So the great thing about that is the Ivanti service management platform allows you to start where you are and then know that the platform can grow with you as your organization matures and gets into more of the optimized and structures into the maturity model. So there's a lot there, a lot of capabilities from this perspective. So we're going to start talking about enterprise service management. Again, we'll link into asset management, understand that's in the platform, and understand that that's all a part of, the connections that we'll talk through on some of the different pieces. But we're going to be going through and hitting some incidents, some requests, some service catalog problems, CMDB, different pieces all along the project itself. And then what we're going to do is step out of the actual tool set and talk a little bit about how we go through and move into higher levels of maturity in our service offerings, whether it's incident, whether it's change, whether it's request, whatever it happens to be. And then how we can go through and make that transition as an organization to be able to help us with that. So that's the agenda that we've got today. So hopefully that'll work with you. If you have questions, please, we've got several people here. We've got Dave Lamson in the studio with me that is helping us with questions and answers. And then we've got Brian Hodzik on the monitoring the Q&A from his house as well. So let's go ahead and jump in. Where I want to start, we've got a couple of different desks here that we can go through and see. The first one that we're going to want to do is look at our reporting structures. So within Ivanti, we have a tool called Extraction. It's our BI tool. Now, a lot of customers have BI tools, the Tableaus and the Power BIs and that kind of stuff. And if you want to use those to connect the Ivanti solutions, we can certainly do that. We have no problem with supporting those kind of things and working with that. However, we do have Extraction for those customers who don't have that BI tool, or another reason for that is that Extraction is a very easy tool to use to be able to go through and pull that data. It can pull data outside of the Ivanti world, but for all Ivanti customers, it comes with the solutions that you purchase, and then you can kind of work through from there. So you'll notice I've got it running in a mode where I've just got it cycling between some different dashboards. A lot of our customers will put this on the TVs up above the service desk or throughout the organization to see where they're going through and tracking different metrics associated with this. As we go to mature an organization, we can't do that without tracking metrics, right? So that's a very important part of going through a maturity structure, is that we can go through and have metrics that we can track and monitor, and then we can go through and make improvements around those different metrics. So let's talk a little bit about Extraction, what it gives us before we jump into the platform in and of itself. So remember, this is Ivanti's BI tool to be able to go help with that. So you'll notice right now I'm looking at agent performance, looking at incident load per agent, average time to resolve per agent. Now it's switched over to change dashboard, different things. Let me go ahead and turn off that cycling, and let's go ahead and look at my incident categorization report, one I like to show a lot on here. So we have incidents by service, incidents by categories, incidents by sources, incidents by location, and incidents by department. So as we go through and do this, we can start to see some of the different details in here. We've got, for example, in our desktop service, 213 different incidents for the last year. over that. If I want to go view those records, I can go into that. If I want to drill into those records and go to the actual record over in the tool, I can double click on it and will take me over there as well. But you can see we have key pieces of information. We can come here and extract that into a CSV file if we wanted to do that, or whatever, to pull that data out as well. We can also use any one of these things to filter the other areas within this dashboard. So for instance, if I come over here to the West Coast location and I say, let's go ahead and filter components, now services, categories, sources, and departments will be filtered to those incidents that were in the West Coast location. And you can actually see that here as I go through and highlight the little red bubble here. It went from blue to red to indicate that there's a temporary filter on there. And then it says location equals West Coast. If I want to go ahead and select add to the marketing department, to that, I go ahead and select that add. Notice location and department are filtering each other. And then services, categories, and sources are being filtered by both. And then if I wanted to go in and view the records behind desktop service, rather than the 213, now I'm looking at 8 different records into that. The great thing about this tool also, we can go in, schedule these dashboards or reports to come out in whatever kind of interval we want, whether it's a daily report, whether it's a weekly report, whether it's a monthly report, or a specified timer that you want to go through and select. You can do that. You can deliver them up on the network. You can send them to your email, drop them on the server itself. Right? You can also do a real-time export. So if I want to take this dashboard, grab an export, I can do it the same scheduled as real-time exports, Word, HTML, PDF, Excel. My favorite for this one, straight into a PowerPoint, right? So now you can kind of go through and start to see, that PowerPoint. If I got to go do a presentation or report out, whatever it happens to be, it creates that PowerPoint for me. And each one of those different dashboard gadgets becomes a slide within that PowerPoint. Now, the real power of extraction is allowing us to go through and start to build these dashboards without having to have the back end on this. So as you kind of go through from here and see this, we go through and say, I want to go to a source of Ivanti Service Manager. And then I want to go through and do those reports for the last 12 months, right? So we'll go ahead and put that in and kind of work through from there. So now anything that I do, we'll go ahead and pull that in from there. Okay, so from this, now you can come in here and say, as I go through and look at this, for example, if I want to see an area view, I can go through and do that, and I can work through from those. So you can see incidents by month. If I would rather view that as a column, I can do that as well. You'll notice I can also come in here to the component and I can change the way things look and feel as well. One of the things I want to do here is just grab a quick series or add a quick series of service requests as well. And then let's go to that same filter that's on here for the last 12 months. And now I've added both incidents and service requests. Okay, we have a question from Raymond. Is there a source is this source based on your own permissions, or can you use it globally by a team? You can control permissions, so you can set up what data set somebody has access to be able to go through and do that. So when you go through, you'll have an account. Every person comes in with their account, and then that account can be defined. What the scope is, what we call it, the scope of their report structures would be able to go through and do. So you would be able to see what that looks like from there. Okay. A couple of other things that go into this. Let's go ahead and say, hey, very common. We want to see customer and we want to see customer department, right? Those are a couple that are there. Let me go ahead and pull out from here to this, and let's not show other, and let's show the top 20 customers for this. And then you can kind of start to see a little bit more detail on there. You can come in through here. Let's also take and let's give ourselves a touch more real estate and do one that's very common. Lots of customers like to see this as an example. How quickly are we resolving our incidents that are coming in? Now you'll notice we're coming in from a incident time to resolve structure, and it's going through from highest value to lowest value. I might want to go through and change that so that it is going to go through from best value to worst value, so I can see how we're doing at resolving those incidents. Inevitably, when I show this, somebody wants to go through that and see that by something, whether it's by department, by location, by team, whatever it happens to be. We can do that same structure by coming into our pivots, grab that same time to resolve. Now it's going to say, what do you want to look at that data by? And I want to look at that by owner, right? So from an owner perspective, now I can see each technician and how they're doing from there. So, okay, looks like we've got any other questions? If you have questions on extraction, you're certainly welcome to do that. Extraction, again, is included with any Ivanti purchase for 5 concurrent users. If you need more than 5 and you want to connect to things other than Ivanti, there can be a charge or a cost for those, but this is included for every customer that gets Ivanti. So, all right, let's go ahead and jump over here, and let's go ahead and go into out of our PowerPoint, and let's go to the platform. So here you can see Ivanti Service Manager. I'm currently logged in, and I'm currently set as a role of admin. Everything within this tool is based upon the role, and all of my different dashboards and different capabilities are all here. All these dashboards are native. This isn't something driven by extraction. Remember, extraction is the BI tool. All the tools have their own dashboards, have their own reporting engines, all the different things associated with this, but extraction allows you to do that business intelligence, which we're going to talk a lot more about, as we get to the end of this webinar. So from here, let's go ahead and see. I'm an admin. As an admin, you would expect I'd have all kinds of access to the platform. I can go through and configure all the different pieces. From there, you'll notice I get this little wrench over here on the side. This will take me to the admin portal for this, where I can go through and configure all kinds of things like permissions and build automations like workflow, and go through and do all the different structures from here. So this allows it to that, including even doing API development and stuff for here. And it goes through and does that as an admin. Now, if I were to switch my role over from an admin, say, to a service desk manager role, you'll notice, obviously, my access would change as I go through and do that, but my home dashboards are going to change as well. Looks like I had CIs up last two. From here, this home dashboard is going to then focus on what's going on with my team and how's that structure looking like. You can see some notices that are happening. We're having some kind of, outages that are going on, or hey, we're even announcing somebody's has their 7th grandchild coming, and you can go through and do different things along those lines as well. So you've got some different capabilities to announce things, so everyone's has that visibility. And then all of these dashboards have drill down capabilities. So if I come in here and look, hey, Mr. Hoskins here is really slacking off. He's got a lot of incidents, way more than everybody else. I can go all the way down into those and start to see, oh, there's a couple of these. Maybe I can go through and reassign this, or maybe one of those very common things in the lower level maturity organizations is that those incidents just sat there. They actually got done. Somebody completed them, but they never went in and went and resolved them or closed them within the actual tool sets to go through and do that. All right. So let's just say we go through and fix that, level 1 level maturity components that are there. So as you kind of walk through, you have the different details. Your incident dashboards can drill in all the different components from there. If I switch over to, say, a service desk analyst role, right, that will allow me to go through and set my dashboards are going to focus much more on what's my workload look like, what are the things that I'm going to be doing, how am I going to be going through and managing all of the different pieces associated with that and structure. Now, each one of these modules that you'll see up here, we're going to call these a workspace. So whether it's incident management, whether it's change management, request management, whatever those happen to be, we're going to go ahead and call those different workspaces as we're walking through. Those have all of the exact same look and feel. We have search up here along the top. We have results in the middle. We have a preview down here along the bottom. So from this perspective, as we kind of go through, if I want to do a search, I can come in and look at, my active incidents, or I can come through and look at all open incidents, or I could come through and look at all active VIP incidents. And those searches would be able to go through and run for that. I can also come through at a different component. If I'm at all and I want to go find something within here, I can do a free text search and go ahead and find all of the different components around where I am the user or I am the owner, either one of them. And then I can even put operators on that. Show me one where we have Brian and has the keyword VPN in there, so you can go through and do those. Now, you'll also see at the searching, I can come in here and select a filter on any column. So for example, if I wanted to filter only those that were active incidents, that way I could quickly go through and do that, clear that filter, and it goes back to that all incidents structure. Every column has that filtering capability, but you'll also notice this little show filters up here. I can go through and configure this list of quick filters. So I can do something like show me everything that's logged and active, that's a priority 3 and 4, that's assigned to my team, where the user's a VIP, and the service that they're calling about is the desktop service. Now this service, we're going to come back to this a lot when we start talking about maturity, because that's one of the fundamental pieces that can help you move from that reactive firefighting mode up into more of the managed and optimized levels within service management. So let's go through from here. If I wanted to save this as a search in the future, I could do that and kind of work through any of those different pieces as we go through. Now, let's go ahead and create a new incident. So from a new incident perspective, in this case, we're taking a call as a service desk analyst. We're going to do an email here and a self-service view of that in just a moment. But from here, let's just say that we have Marcia calling in. Marcia allows us to kind of go through and see some details. I can put more information right now. I just have her email address, but you might want to have this open on behalf of somebody else. So if somebody else is going to report that, right, we can do that. Or we can go through and see more information about Marcia, either by clicking the edit, which will take me to her, base information, or by clicking over to the go to, which will take me to the full employee record, where I can see all that base information like corporate organization, manager, that kind of stuff. But I can also see Marcia's incident history, and I can see Marcia's assets and all the different components associated with that from here. All right, now if I go through, let's just say that Marcia has a Windows profile error, and we put in the details of the error message 1408, right? And let's just go grab an image for an error message. We'll grab one here. Let's just go grab, this one's a good one. Okay, so from here, we'll go ahead and copy that image and we'll just paste it right in here. Now, the thing you'll notice, as soon as I paste that, I can't see that. We do have a maximize button where this can go into a full screen editing mode, and you can start to put in more detail and work from that with anything that you're looking at there. Okay, now you'll notice over here, our status is active. Because I'm accepting this phone call, it's assigned it to me and my primary team out of the box, right? And now you can see where we have a service and category structure. Well, for example, we would select our service. In this case, let's say it's a problem with our desktop computer, right? And the category that we go through and select will then go be based upon that service. Now, you can come in here and see team and owner got blanked out as I did that, right? As you can kind of walk through from here and see, here's the error message, or I could say this is an application failure. Application failure then could go through and assign it out to different teams and different structures within there. So you notice it then goes through and assigns a team based upon that information. Okay. We have a question that's coming up. It says, how do we get assets populated into the service desk? So lots of different options. We have integrations to obviously all the Ivanti tools. So if you're an Ivanti Neurons customer, if you're an Ivanti Endpoint Manager customer, we can do those. If you are an Ivanti customer with any of the platforms that get there, that is all integrated. If you don't have Ivanti and you have something like SCCM, and they call it something else now, Intune, and if you want to go through and connect into SolarWinds or Cisco Works or any of those kind of tools to integrate all of that data, that's a holistic view that we'll go through and pull that kind of data in from the assets. You'll also see we can link the assets. Now I can either search for this from Marcia, or I could go ahead and hit save, and it's going to automatically search, link those assets that are Marcia's in the system from there. Now, there's a couple things I want to point out as we kind of go through and do this. This linked up her assets, but it also linked up a sales and marketing. This is one of those maturity things, right? So as you kind of go through to that, if I click refresh, you'll notice some SLAs that will start to go through. And if I were to go view this SLA information, we would be able to go through and see, hey, it's going to go in and do some first level escalations and different things from there. Now, you can have common SLAs against everyone in the organization. But as you go through and have more advanced levels of maturity and go up into that optimize and stuff, you're going to want to allow people to subscribe to the level of service that they want from you, and then be able to have different pieces that goes through from there. So as I go through, and let me go ahead and minimize this for a second and go over to our escalation watch, you can actually see some different escalations that are going. These escalations are going to be based upon the department and the subscription that Marcia has in the higher levels of maturity. Okay, so we have another question. Is there a KB module you can source the incident to the problem along with the CI? Absolutely. So here's a couple of things you might have noticed as we went through and had the Windows profile error. As I typed in that, it actually went and did what we call an object match search, right? So it's gone out and searched knowledge. It's searched problem management. It's searched incident history, and it's searched implemented changes. So as it's gone through from here, we've searched and linked over to see if there's changes that could be causing this incident. We're going to look and see, are there times where we've seen this in the past? Oh, yes, we have the same error, but it looks like it's a different error image. So maybe that one doesn't apply. But if it did apply, we could say resolve incident, and it would take the resolution from this old incident and apply it to the new one. You'll see from here, we've also got problem records. We have an active problem going on with a Windows profile error, and it's even the same error number, even though the image might be a little bit different, but we have a resolution for that to apply a knowledge article, or excuse me, apply a patch to that. And then we can also see a workaround. If we don't have a full resolution or can't apply that full resolution, we have a workaround, and I could link this incident to this problem. I could resolve it via the resolution. I can resolve it via the workaround. And if there isn't a problem, you'll notice this little button right up here that says create a new problem off of this record. And I can go through and see that information as well. Right? And then we have our knowledge base. So our knowledge base allows us to come through and see a connection to this. And this knowledge article allows me to go through and see, oh, yes, here is information. I can go through and track all of these kind of details within here. That knowledge article may link out to external tools as well, right? So I can say from this knowledge article, go ahead and click on this, kind of work through from that. And then I would go ahead and say link and resolve to this. So I can go through and pull that in with that, say link and resolve. You'll notice the status is moved to resolved. That escalate or that knowledge article is now linked to this. Actually, I got to save it, and then it will be linked. And then I could actually go through and see all of those kind of details into that structure from here. Okay, we have another question that's come up. Could we automate common fixes to that? Absolutely, we can automate common fixes to that, and we can even put those common fixes over here in the related items for any customers that are Neurons customers. Your neurons that are available to go through and do a lot of those automatic fixes can show up in the related items search. That's something that's coming out. The very first initial parts of that is out where you can go through and do that. But you can also make actions. Let's just say, for instance, it's not a neuron thing and you wanted to connect out to an API to do something. You can see I could come in here and I can go and I can make an action, and that action could be to install a patch, and that could go out to the Ivanti patch management solution or whatever other automation you're thinking of via that API to go ahead and call that out from there. Okay, so that was our first incident, kind of walking it through, right? You'll also notice that we have some service requests. We're going to go submit some service requests as an employee, and we're going to see those get fulfilled here in just a minute. So let me go ahead and switch over to our user desktop, and you'll see from here where we can go through and log in as an employee. Now, the employee can also send email. I'm not going to send email, kind of basic functionality, but if I sent an email, it would create an incident and do all of the different stuff from there. We don't have time for all of that today, but I'm going to walk through into this portal. Now, you might have noticed that there was an HR portal and a facilities portal in here. Today, we're focused on IT, but if I wanted to go look at the HR portal, I could certainly go through and do that. One of the most common request offerings that we get from people asking us to help build is a new employee setup or a new hire process, right? So, you see they're going to come in and they need all of their, stuff for a new hire, all of those tasks and different things that are going to be applied to that. You can go through and do that. But let's talk about the IT services to start. So as an employee, I can come through. First of all, you'll notice those same notifications that were going to the manager in their dashboard are going to be available to our employees as well. So when they come in here to the self-service, I'm seeing these ones are very focused to IT. If I went back to that HR one, we would see those things that were HR announcements and different things from here. You'll notice I have a global search here. So if I were to just search for something like Outlook right here, you would see it's going to go out and find FAQs, an announcement about an email outage that we're seeing or having. We may even see how do I create a PST in an FAQ. But you'll also notice I have an incident where I can go through and see, Outlook. I can't open Outlook, and I could go ahead and create that through the service catalog and kind of work through from there. So you can kind of go through and view that and structure that from here and work with all of that. As you go through, you can see some popular requests. You can have the raise incident component. So if I go ahead and click into this raise incident, and let's just say a user is going through and saying, hey, PST file corruption or whatever it happens to be. Notice it went out and searched those things as well. So I can come in here and see, oh, how do I create a personal folder within here and all of the different pieces along those lines. So question came up, can I change the way that this looks and feels? Absolutely. You can change the brand, you can change the theme, you can put your own company colors, your company logo in here, make this look like it's, not the Ivanti service portal, but it's your organization's service portal and work through from there. Okay. So back at the home, you can see from here, I've got some news and announcements, some common knowledge articles. Hey, how do I go through and submit an expense report? Well, here you can see a very rich knowledge article that we can go through and see, different components, including even the option to embed a video as to go through and do something. So you can have very rich knowledge. And then you can see a user can rate that knowledge. They can see what it's been rated. They would be able to go select their rating. They can say whether it was helpful, and they can actually even put any comments around that knowledge article if you wanted to as well. Then you'll see I have a My Items. The My Items is going to be those things that I've submitted, or from an issue perspective, or from a approval perspective. If I have approvals that I need to do, all of those things would be here. If I wanted to look at all of them, you see I've got some heating and cooling that I've submitted, a new hire that I've submitted, and different things where you can go through and look at any one of those. Okay. Now, I want to pull in one thing from here. Okay. So something like a frequent traveler setup, right? Well, notice I can come through and say, I want a frequent traveler setup, and I want to go through and do this. I specifically pulled out this traveler setup because this is going to play into the maturity level where we're starting to talk about how we can go through and link services to request offerings and service offerings that it goes through with that. So, here's a traveler setup where somebody would be able to go through and say, I need a corporate credit card and a mobile phone, right? And work all the different pieces from there and then go ahead and submit that in. You'll notice it's starting to add costs and different things along those lines in here. We'll talk more about that a little bit later, but let's go ahead and do a new tablet. Notice when I come up and click new tablet, there's two options. The first option is I have a tablet request, right? And I'm going to go ahead and submit this. In this case, it doesn't know who it's for. So we're going to go ahead and say it's for me. And we're going to go ahead and select whatever cost center. And I'm going to say I want a Microsoft Surface tablet. and I want 64 gig and I want a Bluetooth keyboard. Now you'll notice as I go through and select this, it's adding costs and different things into this. I can go ahead and say review and submit. And then I would be able to go ahead and submit that. It submits it into my shopping cart. It hasn't fully submitted it yet. It's in a draft state until I go ahead and complete the cart. Now, some customers want to get rid of that. We can certainly do that if you want from there. But then you'll also see a mobile device from the product catalog. The product catalog is when we're looking at stuff from a request type and a asset management structure. So when we have asset management, we also have what we call our product catalog, or what are our standards, right? And as we look at our standards, we can come in here and say, well, what do I want? I want a tablet. It then goes out and looks at our catalog and says, what are the available tablets for me, my organization? It's not giving me any options or any available thing that's out there in the market. These are predefined, approved tablets within my organization that I would be able to go ahead and request. If I go ahead and then select one of those, you'll notice cost and details are all selected in there. And then I would go ahead and review and submit that into my shopping cart as well, right? So just two different ways, one that does have asset management, one that doesn't, around that to give you that product catalog experience and stuff, just to kind of show you the difference of those customers who want to have that level of the asset piece. So now I've gone ahead and submitted those. Those will go out for approvals and have all of the different workflow behind them in that case. Right now, as we go through, again, that most common one we get is that new hire. I'm not going to do that. We're running out of time very, very quickly to be able to get through our change and conversation and then looking at our maturity pieces. But that is where the portal can be, where we can go through, have users submit different incidents, requests, and then check the status of anything that they have submitted. So for instance, that tablet request, they could go ahead and check, see what its progress is, and work through any of those notes or attachments that gets added for that. They could edit or cancel their request as well. You'll notice I just got an email indicating that that has been submitted. Most of what we're demoing to you is out of the box with the Ivanti platform. I will point out something like this email, not out of the box, something that we've gone through and edited to make that look, a little bit better than what the out of the box email notifications would be from there. Okay, just a quick pause to see if we have any questions that we haven't addressed in the self-service portal. It looks like we are okay. So let me come back over here.
What is out of the box?
So out of the box means what it is when you very first day one, you install the software or you get access to our tenant. That's what it exists right from there. So just the very first day of implementation, not after we've gone through and had a consultant work with you for days or weeks or whatever that looks like to customize from there. Okay. So a couple of things. Let's first of all, I want you to notice here in this case, a quick refresh of this. There's the tablet request. Here's the mobile device request. That tablet request, we have the details in here, and you'll notice it's waiting for an approval. Well, who needs to approve it? Well, I need to approve it, right? Now I can go through and I can actually go to that approval and do it from here. If I wanted to do that, I'm not going to do that because I want to show you guys more how we could go through and do the approval over in the self-service, because this is where most people will be doing their approval. And a unique thing about Ivanti is that we do not, why is it April Stone? Let me go back to mine. We do not charge for approval licenses, right? So anyone within the platform can do an approval. If I go into self-service here, same self-service portal as we were just looking at, but now I have an approval that I need to do in the My Items, come in here, filter that approval, and it's there. Now, a lot of people are going to ask, I don't want to go to a portal to do my approvals. Can't I just get an email and type approved? Absolutely, right? If you want to do that, we can certainly configure that and work from there to be able to do that. So, but I'll go ahead and approve that from the portal, and we'll go ahead from there at that point. Okay, let's go back here. As we've now done that, we give that a quick refresh. It might take a minute or so for that approval to process. And then we will get that workflow to go. You'll also notice there's an actual active workflow running behind the scenes. That workflow then goes through, shows us all of the detail into that. The red is indicating where it's at in that process as we kind of work that through from there. And I need to check. I went so fast. I'm not sure. Did I approve the right one? I may not have approved the right one. I did not approve the right one. That's why it's not working. All right. So there we go through. Now I've approved the right one. And now we come back here and it is approved. And now you can see a task has been given to somebody to come in and go through and configure that Surface tablet. Now, there might be a lot more details that might need to be here. This is just, again, a thing to get you started in thinking about that and how that goes and how it works, right? And so we'll go ahead, accept that task. We'll go ahead and complete that task. Out of the box, it's going to ask me how much time I spent doing that. And then I can go through and pull that configuration, different pieces along those lines. You'll notice it's now added a cost item because I put in time allocated to that. It said it's cost us X amount of dollars to go ahead and fulfill this. Looks like we've got a question that says, who adds devices to the drop-down list? If the device is not showing on the list, who is responsible to add that? Well, there's two answers to that. The first answer to that, let me switch over to an admin so I can show you this. The first answer to that is either if you have asset management or not. So if I do not have asset management and I want to go in and change something, then I have a request offering. Now, it's not only admins who control request offerings. We can give rights to people who aren't an admin level to build request offerings. But let's just take, for example, this tablet request offering that I have here. And I start to look at this tablet request from this. Here you come down to requested model, and I go ahead and click edit right here. And now from this edit list, you actually see the structures from here, and I can go through and add a list onto this from here. And I wanted to say, you know, an iPad Pro, and I say that it's, you know, $1,500 or whatever it happens to be. And then we can go through and do that for that structure. Now, at that point, I could add that and then it would be added into there. That is if I don't have the asset management module or I don't want to structure it that way. I can come in here over to, and I got to switch over to an asset view for this, where I come in here to what are called our product catalog, right? So our product catalog allows us to go through and define what are our standards, right? And so if I were to just go through and look at, you know, Surface, here are our Surface components that are there. And then I would be able to add or remove things from the list by adding in our components. And this would be something like our asset manager that would be involved or manage what are our standards and then kind of working it through from there. So a question came in and said, are workflows only in the request module? And that's absolutely not. Workflows are everywhere within the platform, right? So remember, as an administrator, I get this little wrench icon to go to the admin side where I can build workflows. Oops. And you can come in here and stick, here are workflows. And here's all of the workflows that are in, again, in that out of the box. So whether it's, you know, my items that has workflows or incident or problem or change or whatever it happens to be, they all have workflows sitting behind them into that. And then the request offering itself, you know, I can go in and build those workflows right into that offering. So if you look at the tablet request that we just did, we looked at the form. Now we can go through and pull into this, you know, approval structures, approval, make the request not editable, add a task for someone in IT, and it starts tracking that. If I wanted to add some more tasks into that, you know, all drag and drop, maybe I need a second level of approval, right, before it can go through. So I could go ahead, you know, and link that over here. And then once that second approval is done, then we go into this, that second approval, maybe it needs to go to a management committee to do that. And any person from the management committee can go ahead and approve it from there. Right? Okay. All right, I'm not going to save that because I don't fill it out. And then you'll also notice that there is a validation step to actually go through and work with that perspective. So You can see all of that is there with those different pieces as we go in and pull into that structure. Another question's come up and says, is this product based on ITIL? Absolutely. It's all built around ITIL. It's Pink verified for that, but the very structures and foundation of the product is built around ITIL. Okay. Really quickly, talk a little bit about change management. From here, I'm not going to go in and do a full change build out, but here's an example of a change that I have built before, where you can go through and see we have an ERP upgrade and we have some details of that ERP. It's a major change that we're doing. And you can see that we have a risk calculator. So that risk calculator allows you to go through and answer certain questions. And based upon those questions, then you would be able to go through and have risk set associated with that, right? You can go through and have what CIs you're doing this change on. Those CIs can then have a schedule linked to them, and you can see maintenance windows and lockout windows as to when we can and can't do change and run that through. You'll also notice a couple levels of approval that this change went through. Because it's a major change, it needs to go through CAB and then it needs to go through management committee before it can go in and do approval. And we can even have vote tracking to be able to see exactly who's doing different roles and different things within the platform and working from there. And then once it's been an implemented change, we can do a post-implementation review. How did we do? What do we want to make sure we don't do again? All of the different pieces along those lines from there, right? And then that sits on top of those CIs. The CIs are a subset of what I'll call our asset repository. So the asset repository is going to have a very big structure around it, all of the different components to that. So now there are assets that aren't CIs and there's CIs that aren't assets. I know all of that stuff and I don't want to jump into all of that detail today. If you want more conversation about CMDB versus AMDB and all of that kind of stuff, we've got recordings we can send you, or we're happy to jump on a call and have that conversation with you from there. But let's just take, for example, Mr. Hodzik, who's working from his home office today. We're going to go find out what his desktop is. And we can kind of go through from here and start to see, okay, here's his laptop. We can start to see where it's assigned, what the different details are. When did we purchase it? What was the asset age on there? We can see from a discovery, whether it's an Ivanti discovery information, whether it's an SCCM, we can do all of those different components into this. We can also see things like what vendor did we purchase it? What scorecards have we had as we've interacted with the vendor? What are some financial transactions that are gone against this from a purchase and different things that are in there? And what are vendor or what are the finance? What PO did we use that from? All of that kind of stuff is in there and kind of working from those. And then all of the different structures are set against that value within that asset. And then you can see, you know, if there's contracts like a maintenance agreement on the contract, I can see highlighted by double clicking on it, or I can go to and I can see all of the different components in there. Looks like we had a question come up back from the change. It says, was the blackout window derived from the CI statistics or from an other scheduling mechanism? The blackout window is actually a maintenance window and a blackout window that's in the platform. You define those and then you link those to the CIs. So the answer is both. It can be on either one of the different structures that are there. All right. Okay. And then as we kind of work through from here, we've got ability to go through and look at all of the different details of our assets. Notice again that product catalog, which are our standards. And then we also have a stock room. The stock room allows us to go through and have, you know, the different components for a Colorado Springs or Chicago and what we have in that stock room from assets, and then what we've had come in and out of that stock room. So as an example, you know, a customer buys assets, they put them in the stock room. As they come in, they check them in. As they go out, they go ahead and check them out to the user. Then we know the history of that asset. And every asset then allows us to go through and see that history and be able to go through and see it went from, you know, we purchased it, we gave it to Bill. Bill left the organization. It came back into a stock room, and then we gave it to Frank, and Frank went and got promoted, got a new laptop, gave it over back to a stock room, and then it went to Nancy, right? And you can see all of that information as we kind of go through on the process. Okay, what I'd like to do, talk a little bit about the maturity model and how we can help you move up in that with an offer at the end of this. So the product itself is a very powerful tool from here. I've talked a little bit about the maturity model, but what I want to do is switch over to a service owner, and then I'm going to pull back up our PowerPoint into this, right? So what is all of these processes that we have in place, and what are all the different structures that we have with incident and request and change, all of these things? And the very fundamental tool about ITIL was all around best practices, right? Now, best practices don't always apply for every organization in the same way, right? But one of the key things that we want to talk about is how do those best practices help organizations move from that reactive firefighting mode up to running IT as a business. And that's what the key goal here is, right? Too often I see a lot of IT organizations that are just seen as a cost center. And every organization that looks as a cost center, IT as a cost center, looks to reduce budget on an annual basis, right? So when organizations and IT departments are seen as someone that is being driven to move the business forward and help the business in its strategic objectives, that's where those organizations get funding and work through a lot of the different pieces into that. I don't know what that is.
Amber alert.
Amber alert for everybody. Okay. Okay, we're done with it. Okay, so from here, the process module is going to help us do this. So you'll see things like KPIs and metrics. All right. So as you kind of walk that through, you'll see ways that we can have process enablers and improvements. Without those metrics, we can't do that, and we can't work from there. So you need to work through and have some continual process improvements where you can go through and say, you know, where are we now? What are our baseline measurements, and how do we get to what we want to do, and what metrics can we look at to help us get through that process to kind of move from there, right? So you'll see, here's your maturity models. Holy cow, can we like throw that in the other room? So from here, we can go through and look at initial level where we're still dealing with firefighting. This is a lot of times where you see organizations that aren't. All right. So we can go through and see from a structure of our, you know, we're getting struggle with people even entering tickets because they don't understand the value of what that looks like and how we can go through and pull any of that kind of stuff. We can go into repeatable structures where now we're getting people to enter tickets and be able to go through and really track those and start to work with this. This is where I find a lot of our organizations, Gartner did a survey of where people felt their maturity was, and it felt in between the 2 and 3 level, right? Where it's repeatable, we know what's going on. We can react to things and we can work through different pieces to that, but we can go through and see the response is different or in different structures and different ways to that. And it's not really optimized, right? And so when we get into a repeatable level, we have the knowledge, we have the skill to go through and do things, but we're not communicating that out to the organization. And it might not be the same from one person to the other. We don't have standardization to be able to kind of go through and do stuff and work from there. Now, that's our traditional IT firefighting levels that we're looking at from that initial repeatable defined levels. What we want to do is help organizations move from those levels, wherever you happen to be at, up into the managed and optimized. And what that difference becomes really is to help organizations move out of being a cost center where everything is being driven as cost structures and different things to allow us to be a service provider, right? And the way I really work with a lot of customers is I introduce them and say, you know what would happen if, for example, EDS, and I don't know if EDS is still in business these days, but EDS used to do a lot of IT outsourcing. I think they get bought by HP. But EDS, if they were going to come in and take over your IT department, how would they then go back to the business, to the executives in your organization and say, here's what we're going to charge you for, right? And so if you were to turn your IT department into that, you would go through and start to define services. And those services would then have all of the makeup to those. And those services could have potential subscription levels. And based upon that, you would be able to go there and you might not charge those departments, but you may go through and set the departments at just a showback level and to say, here's the value that we're presenting to you, and here's the tools that you're using that we're going through and looking at. And it just changes the way that your whole organization's thought process goes to different things. It takes time. It takes organizational change management. It takes a lot to move from repeatable to defined to managed and optimized, right? But the thing I want to kind of point out is what we're offering out of this webinar is to help you with one of those IT disciplines. Now, we're not going to jump in for every customer for all of your IT disciplines to do this, but we're happy to do a couple-hour IT maturity assessment with a couple of hours that we work on a report to go through and do that on an incident, a request, a change, a problem, or a knowledge structure from one of the ITSM disciplines that are there. That's our call for you, is if you're interested in that, please send us an email. You can send me personally an email. My email address is bhoskins@ncsi.us. That one's for me personally, and I welcome you to send them to me. I also welcome you to send them to sales@ncsi.us, and that way the sales team can get involved and making sure that I don't drop the ball, because I get lots of email too, right? But we can make sure that the sales team is involved in that and kind of working through from there.
It'll be in the follow-up email.
Okay, and we'll also send you that in the follow-up email that you can go in and get that from there. So. But I want to spend the last 2 minutes really quickly to go through and show you what is the difference when we have a service, right? So here you can see I'm now in a role of service owner. And when I go over to my services, I'm just going to pick this service called travel management, because we talked about that earlier. Travel management, here's my service. And when we go through and talk about that, notice we have a service owner who's controlling of this. What's our target availability of this service? What's our hours of operations? Now, this is not the target availability of the service as much as it is what are the SLAs that we're putting behind it, right? From there. And then we can go through and select our category and the different structures that the categories can be in. Then you can see from here, we have service agreements that can be linked to that. And we have cost items that can drive all to the travel service that's there. But most importantly, I want to come over here to this SLA package. This service level package, you'll start to see links to the service of travel management. And if we go to that full information onto this, you can see underneath that, we have a delivery target of an SLA. We can have a response target for SLAs what's our target duration, different pieces. We can get to a resolution target as to that's going to be there. We can have a service agreement that links to it. And then we can also have a listing of a bunch of request offerings that can link to this, right? So this gets into some real deep ITIL stuff, and that's okay for understanding all of the different details. Remember, Ivanti doesn't have to start at this level, but we can grow to this level. We can have a common SLA across all the things that we do, or we can get into defining business services and then letting people subscribe to those services at a silver, gold level where they can get different SLAs, different support structures based upon that. Maybe the sales organization wants a higher level of priority when they call into the support, right? We can give them that option by being a service provider rather than just a cost center into that structure. So please understand, as we go through and work with customers to help them move through this maturity model, we can give you the guidance to make those next steps. And when you're ready to go to that service provider level and build those services, we can help you with that service definition workshops that we can do. We can help you go through and define what those SLA options can be. What are the cost drivers of those SLA options that can drive into those different pieces that are there, and kind of work through from there. So understand that there's SLAs, and there's service targets underneath those, and then there's service offerings that go underneath those where you can have that linked into those service requests. So somebody could go to that service catalog and subscribe to travel management at a certain level, or use request offerings that go and link to that service request offering. So quick pause to see if there's any other questions. I know it's been a full hour, and I'm sure we've lost some people by going so long, but wanted to go through and give you guys as much as we could from here, and then go from there. So Larry, Brian, do we have any questions that we've missed?
No, everything I think you've addressed, and everything looks good. And you've maintained a high percentage, so you're doing great.
Okay. Well, thank you all of you who did stick around for this whole hour. If you have further questions, we're happy to get on individual calls with you and go through those in more detail and kind of work that through. And we'd love to work with you on an assessment around your ITIL maturity and help you move to that next level and set goals as to how to do that. So thank you everyone for your time today, and we'll go ahead and close it from there.